Hi, I'm Joe.
And I'm Dave.
And we're the hosts of the Chasing Tomorrow podcast, where we bring you stories that delve into the science and spirit behind intriguing people doing extraordinary things.
Welcome to the Chasing Tomorrow podcast. This week, it's episode 45. This week, we have 39-year-old Aleksandr Sorokin. Now, if you don't know who Aleksander is, and you're a runner, you've been hiding under a rock. Aleksander is hands down the world's best ultramarathoner. And it was pretty rad that I was able to just send him a text and get him on today's show and really introduce him to a lot of our North American guests or our listeners. So let me tell you a little bit about Aleksander, and just the next minute of what you're about to hear is going to blow your socks off. So Aleksander in 2019 won the World 24-Hour Championships in 278.973 kilometers. In 2017, he broke onto the ultra running scene, winning the Spartathlon. He was the winner there in 2017. And just last weekend, on Saturday in the United Kingdom, he ended up setting 3 world records. He ended up breaking the world records for 100 miles, run in 11 hours and 14 minutes and 56 seconds. Yeah, I'm going to say that again. 11 hours, 14 minutes and 56 seconds. That makes my legs hurt just sitting here. He ended up setting the world record as well too, 150 kilometers, 10 hours, 27 minutes and 48 seconds. And after he was done 100 miles, he wasn't done there. He wanted to go break the 12-hour record as well too, by running 170.309 kilometers, run in 12 hours. It's absolutely spectacular what this guy just did. And he is spending the next hour with us, telling us all about those races and really about himself. Now, also alongside Aleksander, we have Aleksander's brother, Maxime, joining us from Denmark. Now, Aleksander says he doesn't speak great English. I think he speaks amazing English, but anytime that we need a translator, Maxime's going to be here to join us to help him out along with translating. So without further ado, welcome to the Chasing Tomorrow podcast, Aleksander.
Good day, everyone.
Yeah, Aleksander, great to have you on. And we hope you're recovering well from last weekend. I'm sure you're still feeling some of the effects of running that kind of speed for that kind of time. I'm going to just make a statement, then we'll go back and talk a little bit about your history. What I'd love to get into a little bit later on is, you're pushing down the amount of time it takes to run 100 miles down to this 11:14. Can we break 11 hours one day? We'll ask that question in a little while. But before we ask that question, since we don't really know your background a lot, and when you find someone who's breaking world records, we see the end of the story, but we'd love to hear the beginning. So if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about, your sort of journey to running. Did you run in high school? Were you a, post-high school runner, track star, or just did you find it later on in life and realize how fantastic you really are? Anything you could tell us would be great.
Максим, можешь перевести? Я начал бегать довольно поздно, в 32 года. До этого я был гребцом на байдарке. Мой отец тренер. И до 23 лет я был гребцом, спринтером.
So I'll just translate here. So he started picking up running at when he was 32. Before that, he was doing kayak sprinting. So flat water kayaking. His father is a coach. So until when he was 23 years old, he was doing kayak sprinting.
Wow. So good fitness, but not a lot of running early on. Okay, keep going.
Потом был перерыв без спорта, и причина, по которой я начал бегать, это я очень набрал весе, я весил около 100 килограмм. Знаете, каждый день пиво, сигареты и так далее. В один прекрасный день я сказал себе «стоп».
So the reason why he picked up running in the first place was he after he stopped with the previous sport when he was 23, he gained a lot of weight, and he was basically drinking beer and smoking every day. And one day he decided to stop it.
Да, и начал бегать. И в один прекрасный день я на земле нашел бумажку с приглашением на пробежать 100 километров у нас в Литве, чемпионат Литвы. И я подумал, вот это будет моя цель, и я хочу пробежать эти 100 километров.
And then he picked up running, and just one day he found a piece of paper just lying around about a competition, about running 100 kilometers competition in Lithuania. And he said to himself that, well, that's my goal, and I'll prepare for that.
И от этого началась моя карьера бегуна.
And that's how his career has started.
Yeah, and Alexander, I've never heard of anybody, that, was drinking a lot and smoking a lot, and then, within a couple, years said, hey, I'm going to take on these 100-kilometer challenges. I'm going to push my body to the extreme. How did you end up making that decision to go from one extreme side of life to the other? Have you always lived in extremes?
Если делать, то делать это по максимуму. Или пить по максимуму, или бежать по максимуму.
So if you have to do something, you have to do it on a maximum level. So either drink on a maximum level, or you do something else, or you run on the maximum level.
I guess you're
hold on one
safer
second.
now.
Oh, I love that. So Alexander, that speaks volumes about so I'm a big fan of yours, and that tells me a lot right there, because when I watch you race, me and all my friends in North America, you take off like a bullet, and it's amazing. There's Alexander, he's going again. And sometimes it doesn't work out for you. Sometimes you're going really fast and then you hit a wall. But other times, and most recently, it really has worked out for you. Have you always been a bit of a risk taker, where you end up, going hard into anything that you do?
Максим, можешь перевести?
Ты всегда бегал очень быстро и всегда срывался как пуля с самого старта. И вначале это не работало у тебя, и последние разы начало работать. И у тебя спрашивают, ты всегда пытался брать так много риска, рискованно, так скажем, бегать, выступать?
Это, скорее всего, не риск, это, скорее всего, нехватка опыта. Я сейчас просто, наверное, медленнее бегу, чем бы я мог бежать тогда. Я сейчас стал быстрее, но кажется, что я также бегу быстро. Ну, можешь, Максим, понять?
Yeah, я приду сначала. Yes, so it might sound that he is risk-taking, but in reality, this is he refers to it as a lack of experience. That's why he he's running very fast in the first competitions, and right now he's trying to have a bit slower pace in the start, but rather keeping it throughout the race.
So we need to.
I think he,
sorry, go on.
Sorry, I think he wants to carry on with the answer.
Go, please. Yes.
Нет, наверное, другой вопрос может задать.
No, he's done. Sorry.
Okay, so just for everyone listening, just to give some context, I think if I calculate right, it's a 6:44 pace, 6 minutes and 44 seconds a mile for the 100 miles. Thinking of that being slow is sort of interesting, but not really slow. I think that the question, given your background, I think to stay at that pace for that long, you have to actually be as mentally strong, because it's an effort, a real effort. You don't really get to take a break at all. I mean, and so tell us a little bit about, how hard it is to hold that pace for that period of time, and how are you feeling throughout that?
Как я себя чувствовал во время бега, да, всего?
Да, потому что ты бежал очень быстро, среднее время было очень быстро. Как ты чувствовал себя, как ты к этому ментально подходил?
Для меня соревнование это как, я не знаю, как бой, как война. И поэтому я пытаюсь отвлечься от всех таких негативных мыслей. У меня одна цель, я на нее иду. И, наверное, да, всегда обычно бывает, что я ставлю ва-банк. В этот раз я даже не знал, смогу ли я пробежать его. Я просто посчитал среднюю скорость мирового рекорда и пытался бежать чуть-чуть быстрее. И я даже не знал, смогу ли я продержать все до конца, но так вышло, что смог, и получилось победить.
So he expands also on the previous question at the same time. So every competition for him is like a battle, or more like he refers to it as a war, and he tries to abstract, get away mentally from all the problems to really focus on the run itself. And he also says that he was not sure about if he could actually do this race. So he says he went all in, and by running this fast, so to say. So he basically took the average pace that would be needed to break the record, and he basically attempted running it for the whole race.
Wow, that's good.
That's excellent. Yeah, and so Aleksander, on social media, Zach Bitter was very, very congratulatory of your victory. And here in North America, Zach Bitter is a running god. He's incredible, and he continually gets better year after year. Do you have any words for Zach? He was really full of grace when he ended up finding out that his world record, the 100-mile world record, was broken. Do you have any messages for Zach? Maybe to spur him on to break your world record, so then you could break maybe his?
Я понял, что он очень хороший человек, потому что он поддерживал меня во время бега. Мне сказали, что он писал комментарии, что давай, Александр, давай. И я хочу извиниться, конечно, перед ним. Может, ему не очень приятно, что так вышло. Ну, спорт есть спорт.
So first of all, he really wants to thank Zach for his support, and he says he really mean it because he was told during the race that Zach was really supporting him and really commenting and encouraging him to run and really keep the pace. And he says that and he thinks that he hopes that Zach is not feeling bad about it, because in the end he broke his record, but he's really thankful for Zach's support throughout the race.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that's one of the special elements of the ultra running community. It's competitive and supportive at the same time. There aren't a lot of sports that find, the pleasure in others doing great. And I think it probably comes from how difficult the sport is, that you just have a deep respect for whomever it is, because they have to push so hard that you're just happy for a person who could do that. And I think Zach is a good example. Jim Walmsley this year tried to break the 100-kilometer record and just missed it by a few seconds. And, the support that, he had throughout that race before and after, and even how he looked at just missing the record, was part of, I think, the decorum, or the way that we feel about the sport. So you're, Aleksander, now, one of the people who will be, in the top of the sport for quite some time. And, your sort of way about you seems like you fit well. When you're out running that hard, tell us a little bit about the training that you do to get ready. And is it, track workouts, road workouts? How many miles a week? What is your typical training?
В этом году из-за пандемии я не работал, и поэтому у меня было очень много времени на подготовку. То есть я себя чувствовал как профессиональный спортсмен. Я только занимался бегом и кушал, спал, и больше почти ничего не делал. И я чувствовал, что растет результат и что можно хорошо пробежать.
I'll translate part. So this year, due to pandemics, he did not work, and basically that made him feel like a professional athlete. So what he was basically doing is preparing, training, running, eating, and sleeping, so that again made him feel like a professional athlete.
Насчет тренировок. Я примерно тренируюсь как к марафону, то есть только, наверное, больше километраж делаю. Пиковые недели были примерно 260 километров, не очень много по нынешним меркам. 260 километров и много зала, много штанги. 3 раза в неделю штанга была.
Okay, I hope I get this right. So, he basically says that the preparation is basically similar as the preparation for the marathon. It's just, of course, the amount of run kilometers is a bit bigger. In terms of the amount of kilometers run per week, if I get it right. So he says it's a 260 per week. And he, again, kilometers, not miles, 260 kilometers, not miles. Yes. And he said that that's probably not much if I got him right. But at the same time, he was also doing gym 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, we can see that in your shoulders. You've got more muscular shoulders than the rest of us.
Yeah. Actually, just like I always try and translate for the American audience. So 260 kilometers would be 161 miles a week. And I'm, if you're running that's a lot of miles a week. I think we're at a little more than 20 miles a day. So we're getting a lot of miles in our legs and going to the gym. Even if you have time away from work, it's still a lot. So great training. And so let's talk a little bit about the race. I think, we hear that you walked in knowing what the record is, and how did it feel when you started? Did you feel really good? Were you like mentally ready, physically ready? Did you struggle at all during the race? Of course, it's going to be hard. We know that. Explain a little bit how you felt from beginning to the end.
Вначале, как всегда, все хорошо, все прекрасно, темп легко поддерживать. Обычно у меня кризис начинается примерно на середине дистанции, потому что кажется, что я столько пробежал, а еще столько же осталось. Это очень тяжело для меня ментально.
Yes. So he says that it started fine as usual, and there was no problem with keeping the pace in the start. And he says that usually this race and usually in his other races, he has this crisis at the middle because he mentally struggles thinking that, okay, I have run half of it and well, I have to another half in front of me. So that was a mental challenge for him this time as well.
Да, потом начинаются боли, как всегда, в ногах. Приходится терпеть. И под конец ты не знаешь, сможешь ты или нет. И это начинается паника. Очень тяжело это пережить, но я даже до конца, примерно до часу, до финиша не знал, смогу ли я побить рекорд или нет. Только когда остался час, я уже примерно посчитал, что я смогу примерно быстрее пробежать.
Yes, and right about the time, about this crisis time, then the pain in the leg starts, and slowly some sort of panic, comes to his mind, because he do really not know if he can make it, meaning, well, breaking the record or not. And he's saying that prior to 1 hour until the race to finish, he was not really sure if he could do it.
Wow.
And only when the 1 hour left, he, well, mentally calculated, of course, with that he could do it. So he was not sure, and again, he was a bit kind of panicking, and together with all this pain, it was pretty hard in the second part of the race.
Well, Dave, that's at least. Oh, sorry.
В конце, когда уже понятно было, что я рекорд побью, такой ментальный подъем начался, и даже когда осталось 10 примерно кругов, мне предложили продолжить бег, чтобы добавить к 100 милям еще 12-часовой рекорд. И я вначале был в шоке, думаю, не, мне хватит и 100 миль рекорда, но потом посчитал, что мне всего лишь надо за 45 минут пробежать 8 километров, и я подумал, что лучше я потерплю, чем буду потом жалеть всю жизнь, что не потерпел 45 минут из-за 8 километров.
Yes, so he refers back to that point when the 1 hour left, and he was he got that he actually could make it, and that make him feel a bit better, and mentally feel better, and actually continuing, so to say, well throughout the end of the race. But at the same time, in the last hour, he was given this piece of paper when one of the supporters gave to him, saying, okay, if you keep the same pace, you could maybe break the 12 hours record. And first of all, he was saying, no, I really don't want to do it. I'm okay with 100 miles. But then he thought about it, that he only needs, if I remember correctly, 8 kilometers, 28 kilometers in 45 minutes, if I remember correctly. And then he said that he would, even though he was first said kind of no, then he said, okay, I'm gonna feel bad through the rest of my life if I won't do it. So that's why he continued pursuing the 12 hours as well.
Oh.
Yeah. So Aleksander, that feeling, that one moment when you pass by the 100-mile mark, and in the next 5 minutes that went through your mind, that must have been hard, to know that you still had another, 45 minutes still left to run, and your legs, there was probably nothing left in your legs. How did you get through the next 45 minutes?
На самом деле, этот мировой рекорд мне дал очень много сил. Я не знаю, даже в ногах появилась такая более-менее легкость. И, конечно, скорость упала намного. Она стала, мне кажется, около 5 минут за километр. Но этого достаточно было, чтобы закончить с мировым рекордом 12-часовым. То есть я бежал уже расслабленный после финиша уже.
Breaking the record gave him a boost to keep running. Of course, the pace has dropped, and he as far as he remembers it, he ran 5 kilometers, 5 minutes per kilometer. Now I think I'm confusing. No, 5 minutes per kilometer.
Mm-hmm.
But still, that allowed him to break the 12 hours record as well.
That's still a good pace at any time. So that's, yeah, I think actually, and Dave, you sort of picked up on this point. In my sort of running career, I'm just a runner. I'm not a, athlete like you guys. I've always thought that the time or the distance was what got us to where we had to go. And if you signed up for a 50K, you didn't want to run a 50 miler that day. If you signed up for a 50 miler, you didn't want to run 100K that day, because whatever you agreed to is what the mind set its goal at. So the idea of passing what the goal is and to keep going is really difficult. There's as hard of a mental challenge, even if you're slowing down, because you've put everything out to get to that moment. So that's pretty amazing. And when you slowed down to your whatever 5 minutes, you were just still doing a 25-minute 5K. That's that's an 8-minute pace. That's still a pretty good clip for most runners, especially at that time. So so you finish, and now you have these 2 records, at least as you would know it. It's always a hard question to answer, but how did you feel then? Like, what was it like? Because is it like this amazing, like, oh my God, I just broke all these world records, or I'm just exhausted, give me a chair, I want to sit down?
Всегда на тренировках я иногда думаю об этом, то есть как я буду себя чувствовать, если побью мировой рекорд. И мне казалось, что будет какие-то вау-ощущения, что адреналин и там эндорфины будут выделяться. Но на самом деле, когда заканчиваешь эту дистанцию, это как, не знаю, окей, я закончил, работа сделана, идем дальше. Все.
So during the training, through the training to the championship, he was thinking, okay, what would happen if I would be able to break the record? And he thought that, well, probably going to be a big wow feeling, and it would be great, so to say. But this time, when he actually did that, he said, okay, right, so we broke the record, fair enough, so let's just move forward.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And now a few days
incredible.
later, do you feel like, okay, you're past being exhausted? Do you feel like this is pretty amazing accomplishment some number of days later?
Максим, ты можешь перевести?
То есть, а спустя несколько дней после соревнований, как ты себя чувствуешь? То есть появилось чувство, что чего-то достиг, или как-то изменилось твое отношение?
Такое чувство успокоения. То есть, да, ты достиг этого, и как бы камень упал, вышло такое, как satisfaction, как-то даже на русском не знаю, как сказать. И это приятное ощущение, такое спокойствие на душе, что весь план А сделан, и все хорошо.
So he basically describes this feeling after, well, several days after the championship as a relief. So he made plan A, basically achieving all what he wanted for the race. So now he feels, after these several days after the race, he feels relieved.
Yeah. Alexander, do you put a lot of pressure on yourself?
Максим.
Как сказать, напрягаешь ли ты себя сильно, то есть оставляешь на себя ответственность, как много ответственности на себя берешь?
Да, я, наверное, за много для себя ответственности беру, потому что перед стартом очень волнуюсь и, например, сплю плохо. Я думаю, зачем? Это же просто бег. Но нет, кажется, очень это для меня важно, и вот, поэтому, да.
So his answer is yes. He is actually is feeling a bit nervous before the starts. He talks not specifically about this one, but in general about the starts. He feels a bit nervous and usually sleeps not very well, even though he's trying to calm himself by saying, okay, this is just a competition. So right.
And Aleksander, your trajectory is up and up and up. Like, only in 2017 you started having really big wins, and since then in 2019 and now in 2021, you're the world's best. If there's one, there's an ultra runner that we all know, Yannis Kouros, and I think that both you and I would agree that he's a god. He's a running god, and he's incredible. His world records seem to be untouchable. But Aleksander, if there's any one runner in the world right now that I think that could come close to his 24-hour world record of 303 kilometers, it's you. Do you think that one day you could break Yannis Kouros' 24-hour world record?
Да, я об этом думал много. И сейчас я об этом думаю, и становится немножко страшно. До 2019 года я даже не думал, что можно как-то приблизиться к результату Куроса. Но после 2019 года я понял, что чтобы даже не победить, но хотя бы приблизиться к этому результату еще возможно. То есть в себе, например, я чувствую резервы, что если все получится, сложится все на дистанции, то приблизиться точно можно к этому результату.
So he's thinking about it. He was thinking about it previously as well, and prior to 2019, he was thinking that this record is really untouchable, as you referred to yourself. But after 2019, he thinks that, well, maybe if not breaking it, it's still possible to get closer to it, and he feels that he has capacity to do it.
Yeah, you know what's amazing, and so yeah, we've talked about Janos many times, and his records have been standing for a long time, but so have many other of the ultramarathoning, distances and these fastest known times. And it seems like over the past couple of years, the fitness level of the performers in the sport is getting to almost a ridiculous level. The speed of a 50-miler feels like a marathon distance now. And, we're going at the 2-hour mark in the marathon, and, the fitness is, I think, incredible. Do you think it's the fitness that's getting better, the training, the mindset? Why is it over the past couple of years we're seeing this, and it seems not to have an end? It just seems like, the next day someone's going to challenge some of these really long, hard distances at speeds that, like the 4-minute mile years ago. Is it a similar, like we were all capable but weren't mentally strong? What do you think, Aleksander? Where is the difference? Better training, mental, food?
Наверное, тяжело сказать. Максим, наверное, вопрос был, почему улучшаются результаты, да?
Да.
Тяжело сказать. Наверное, человек так устроен, что если есть пример, он всегда хочет быть лучше. И это вот по чуть-чуть он всегда, когда человек хочет быть лучшим, он, когда становится лучше, следующий еще становится лучше. И как бы эта ступенька, она всегда растет. Наверное, это больше ментальная, наверное, работа. Мы, наверное, такие резервы имеем, которые мы даже не знаем об этом. Просто они открываются, когда видишь пример хороший. Например, тот же Курос. Мы видим, что человек может так бежать. Значит, и все могут так бежать. Как-то так.
Yeah. So he says it's a really good and hard question to answer, but he answers in two parts. So he says, well, the way it works, as he thinks, if there is an example, meaning that someone runs at specific pace, for example, then obviously other people would try to follow this example, meaning running at the same pace or faster. And this way you kind of keeping the levels or improving the levels in the competitions. Second part, he answers that, yeah, probably that's the mental approach changed. And hence, for example, he refers to the Kouros record, saying that, well, if he was able to run so many kilometers in the competition, then meaning that probably other people can do it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it means that something mentally has changed approaching this the competitions.
Yeah, you know, I would. Oh, go on, please.
Надо, наверное, как-то ментально разрешить своему организму сделать это. Просто может, когда человек не верит, он не может это сделать. Когда он поверит, он это сделает.
Yeah, so he says that something mentally has to be done. Changed. Mental approach should be changed. So unless you don't believe that you can do it, then you won't do it. So you really have to believe in that prior to doing it.
Yeah, you know, it's sort of interesting because you know, in other sports there's equipment that changes, you know, so the golf game, you know, is completely different. You know, the people are swinging the club at a speed that was never before, but the equipment has changed. And in tennis, they're hitting the ball harder than ever, and you know, in all different sport. And what's fascinating in running is, you know, the sneaker can only make so much of a difference. There's not much equipment to it, but in all of them, we're challenging the convention, you know, the sort of accepted practice of limits. You know, that's what we can do. And I think that that's what you're sort of getting at, Alexander, which is you sort of have to throw away the idea that there's some limit, because really we don't know what the physical limit of the body is yet. We haven't really fully explored it. And there is the way that the brain works is it's always protecting our system. And so it's often trying to discourage us from going to the physical capability that we have, and we let it win, you know, we let it stop us instead of saying, oh, well, that's a signaling system that's just, it's not real. You know, I'm not really, look at you now, right? You're sitting here, you might be a little bit sore, but you know, you're feeling pretty good and you ran that hard and that fast. And so that recovery, I think, is always living proof that we haven't gone too far. Like if you were laying in a hospital bed for the next 6 months, we'd say, oh, maybe that was too much. But I don't think we've come close in a sense. And that's exciting. Just needs people like you and Dave and others to say, I'm going to find out how this, I always call it a system, you know, how this system, our body works, because it's physically capable now. We just get the mental, and of course training and all the other things have an effect on that. But it's a very exciting time for, I think the running community is going to see a lot of records this year be broken as we come out of the pandemic. So, you know, Dave is running next weekend. I think we're on for next weekend, Dave. You're going for the
on Friday.
So Dave is
so
running.
Alexander,
Tell him a little bit about it.
Yeah, Alexandra. So I'm going to be running across the province of Alberta. So I live up here in Canada, and my province right now, we can't travel between provinces and provinces. So you can't go across the country. You can't travel because of the pandemic, and our numbers are really quite bad here in Canada. And so, you know, I was supposed to run across Canada, which was 7,200 kilometers, and I wanted to do that in under 72 days. But you know, I've got the fitness, and you know, I want what I'm going to do on the weekend in 3 days from now, or when we air this, it's going to be that same day. Is I'm going to take a baby stroller and just run the entire province all in one run, which is 537 kilometers in just one shot. And so, Alexander, my question to you, and I want to do it in under 72 hours. So my question to you is, do you have any advice for me? What would be something that you would do this week to approach gaining success this weekend? What's something that I've got you in my front row here. I got to ask you, what advice would you give me?
Максим, можешь привести последний?
Yes, so just to be totally sure, your intent to run 537 until in 72 hours.
Yes.
That's correct.
Correct. Yeah.
Тебя спрашивают совета. So он будет бежать 537 километров и хочет пробежать за 72 часа. И так как ты сидишь прямо здесь, он просит тебя, какой ты совет можешь ему дать?
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like hell, doesn't it? Yeah, it's gonna be a long run. Yeah.
I don't even know anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's really crazy when the guy who just broke the 100-mile world record tells me that I'm crazy. I don't know what's weirder there. So no, that's great stuff. So Aleksander, we were talking to Joe Fijas, a number of months ago, and he's an incredible 6-day runner, really great ultra runner from the United States, and we were going on about Yanis Kouros, and we were talking about Yanis Kouros' career and how he ended up running, I believe it was 24-hour races. And on the 24th one, that's when he broke the 300-kilometer mark. So this was his life's work, that he ended up learning and doing better and better and better and better and better. And finally, 24-hour races later, he ended up making the world record that we all are amazed with now. Do you see that might be in your future, where it comes to 24-hour racing or 100-mile racing, that you're going to be chipping away and getting better and better and better? Is that something that's in the future for you?
Максим.
Янис Курос побил рекорд 24-часовой на 24-м забеге своем. И как ты думаешь, будут ли у тебя улучшаться результаты? Ты тоже будешь пытаться пробежать быстрее с каждым следующим рейсом? Или какие у тебя планы насчет этого?
Ну, так далеко я не хочу загадывать. Ну, пока будет расти результат, я точно буду бежать. Я хочу найти свой лимит тоже в 24 часах. Ну, я сейчас удивился насчет, что только с 24-й попытки у него вышло выбежать 300 километров. Мне еще тогда много надо бежать, потому что у меня на моем счету где-то 7 суток. Да, я буду бежать, пока будет расти результат.
So he will attempt running, attempting 24 hours while his results are improving. He also wants to find his own limits in this distance. And he said that he was not aware actually that Kouros did it in 24th attempt. So that's actually new to him. And he says that he has he has run 7 times if I got it right so far. So if you count 24 attempts, that's still a lot of attempts in front.
You've got 18 more times to run.
We'll hope for you that you do it in less than 18 more times.
Yeah.
But I think that what is, so fascinating is that, this discipline in ultra running is that, as we sort of get older, we're actually getting better. It's one of the few sports, I think aging is not as impactful to sport as it used to be. I think, before it was 30 years old, you were done in any sport. And we've had on the podcast, 55-year-olds who are, world champions in sports that they're competing against 30-year-olds. So I don't think that the age, if we can stay healthy and work it, but it takes the thing that I've found, because I'm probably the older one on this podcast, is that you have to keep working it. The time off doesn't help you. because the recovery is different when you're 25 versus 45. At that age, you don't want recovery because the body sort of starts to go into too much rest. So I think that is going to be part of how we see improvement, which is sort of breaking a lot of the norms, which is that you have to just stick with it. And the more you stick with it, now it means some, modest, like we'll call it recovery runs, but time off isn't a friend as you age into this. So you have plenty of time as long as you mentally are good to stick with it. The body responds very well. Dave knows this. I'm a couple of days away from, it's not that big of a deal, but I ran 500 days in a row, at least 10 miles a day. And so I haven't taken off a day. And then I've been doing other, physical activities, pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, all that every day for 500 days. And I found that the only real hard part was my mental state. Not the physical has actually got to a point where it's easy to run 10 miles. Now, it's not a lot. It's not like doing, it's maybe 80 or 90 miles a week. But what I found fascinating through that experience was that I got physically stronger and then had to work through the mental barriers. So for you, do you have, some techniques that you use on the mental side to think about, how you'll, what is it that you can hold on to that makes you sort of stay strong? Because clearly you're physically strong enough to get, even breaking 11 hours is within probably the realm of possibility for you.
Ну, ментально я чувствую себя еще слабым, потому что любые мелочи меня начинают во время бега раздражать, если там что-то плохо, что-то болеть. Я не умею контролировать боль, как некоторые говорят. Надо учиться этому делать. И я не знаю, как. Это сложно. Каких-то таких приемов я тоже не имею. Ну, я пытаюсь, конечно, представить, что я лечу, у меня крылья, мне легко. Иногда это помогает, иногда не помогает.
So actually, on contrary, he's saying that he has a hard time coping with mentally with the issues. For instance, he was talking about that when during his running, when he runs and he has some pain somewhere, it really irritates him, and he really has a hard time coping with such issues mentally. And he says that, well, some people may believe that he has some kind of power to deal with, for instance, pain, but he really doesn't have this have any tricks to deal with it. He says that, well, sometimes he imagines he has wings and he flies when he runs, and he says, well, sometimes it helps, but it also sometimes it just doesn't help.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Right, Dave?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. No, so Aleksander, when it comes to North American runners, a lot of North American runners don't know a lot about you. And if you could tell our audience one thing that might surprise them about, Aleksander the runner, is it we were just talking about mental strength, or is it, the fact that you work really hard in your training, or your diet is specific, you're a vegan, or you're keto, a lot like Zach Bitter, or something that might surprise our audience. Is there any one thing that you could tell us that might make sense of why you're able to do the incredible things that you can do?
Я постоянно меняю свои методики, и в том числе в еде. До 2019 года я бы сказал, что лучшее восстановление для меня – это скушать литр мороженого. Но сейчас я, подготавливаясь к этому соревнованию, к 100 милям, отказался от сладкого, сбросил много килограммов, и теперь говорю, что сладкое – это зло. Так что я не знаю, как лучше для вас.
I think he might have misunderstood the question, but he says something in that direction as well. That he changes his methodologies approach on preparing for the competitions. So, for example, prior to 2019, he was saying, well, the way he prepares for the competitions by eating a lot of sweet stuff. For example, he could eat nearly 1 kilo of ice cream. But after 2019, he changed his approach and he cut down on the sweet stuff, and he actually managed to drop a lot of weight. And now he says that actually sweet stuff is bad.
Mm-hmm.
But Dave, maybe I should get your question back to him, because he might misunderstand the exact thing you're
absolutely, please do. Yeah.
Тебя спрашивают, может быть, не так правильный вопрос. Тебя спрашивают, тебя немного знают людей в Северной Америке. Один какой-то вещь или один какой-то факт о себе ты мог сказать, чтобы люди узнали тебя побольше? Не из персональной жизни, а именно из тренировок. Что-то особенное. Допустим, ты ешь как-то что-то особенное, или там ты вегетарианец, или каким-то образом тренируешься. Какой-то один интересный факт.
Наверное, нету такого факта. Я не могу ничего такого придумать, сказать. Но например, я был одно время фрукторианец, полгода, и мне это тоже понравилось. Я, наверное, такой могу приспособиться к многим вариантам и еды, и тренировок, потому что я меняю и тренировки, и еду. Вот если взять весь период моего бега, то, да, как я говорил, я был полгода даже фрукторианец, ел только фрукты и овощи, и мне было очень хорошо. Потом я ел много сладкого, мне было очень хорошо. Сейчас я не ем сладкого, мне тоже очень хорошо. И также в тренировках я, например, выиграл Спартатлон, не делая никаких ускорений, только бегая равномерные тренировки. А сейчас я делал очень много быстрых тренировок, но меньше километраж делал.
Yes. So again, he was struggling to find something good to talk about. But he said, for example, his body, and he managed to adapt both to different trainings and to different eating. For example, half a year, he used to, for half a year, eating only fruits. I'm not sure how that's correctly said in English. Fruit.
Yeah, fruit.
Basically eating only fruits for a half a year. Wow. And he really liked it. And then for some time, he used to eat a lot of sweet stuff. Again, a lot of ice creams, for example. And he also liked that. And right now, he, for example, as he mentioned before, he stopped eating sweet stuff at all, and he also likes that. And he makes another example with training. So, for example, for the Spartathlon competition, he used to train very flat, so no accelerations during trainings, no sprinting, so just running, so to say, in a flat pace all the time. But this time, he was training a bit differently for this competition, running. There were some faster trainings which he would used to run faster, but at the same time he would run with less kilometers per week, and it still kind of managed to help him, this change of methodology.
Nice. Yeah, I think that whatever you're doing, it's working. So we're happy for that. I think that we always like to sort of end the podcast with the idea of what's, the future hold for someone like you. And I think as the world gets to know about Aleksander, it's going to be really fun to watch you continue to go after some of these amazing records. And maybe we'll, once the pandemic's over, get you racing in North America and having some fun. But before we ask the Chasing Tomorrow question, and just one other was, we've always sort of focused on this backyard style format, which is you run every hour on the hour, the 4.167 miles. Have you ever considered that format, Aleksander? The format we're talking about?
Максим.
Yes. So he wants me to translate it, but I also heard about this format, this backyard format, when you run
4.167 miles per hour. You start at the top of the hour and you run, and whatever time you have remaining, you rest. And then at the top of the hour, you start. And then it ends when the last person runs the last loop.
Right. Ты слышал что-нибудь об этом чемпионате Backyard? Когда ты бежишь по чуть-чуть каждый час, потом бежит следующий человек. So he's not aware about this format.
Okay, well, we'll introduce him to it. Dave is very good at it, and it's growing in its interest level amongst the top ultra runners in the world. So we'll recruit.
Yeah, Aleksander, what I'll do, Aleksander, is I'll send you a private message and I'll send you a video of it. It's at Lazarus Lake down in Tennessee, the same as Barkley Marathons, and he puts on these incredible events. And Johan Steen and Courtney Dauwalter, they've all become quite good at it. If you're good at 24-hour racing, you're really good at backyard racing. So, I'll send you a video and hopefully I can get you into doing something like that, because I think you'd be really, really good at it.
Yes. So then, so we'll end up, Aleksander, what is your chasing tomorrow? What does the next year sort of hold for you?
Я не задумываюсь очень далеко о будущем, особенно в это время, когда такие времена настали, где все меняется очень быстро. Наверное, самый главный старт, будет чемпионат мира в Румынии. Я буду готовиться на него. Надеюсь, что он будет.
Yes, so he doesn't plan for a future that much, especially with this current times. But his intention is to run the next World Championship in Romania, and he hopes that it will happen.
Well, we wish you the best.
Aleksander, here's hoping. Yeah.
Yes. Congratulations, Aleksander, for such an amazing accomplishment. Thank you for being on the show. Maxim, thanks for so much for doing the translating. Really appreciate that. You did a great job. And
Thank you.
it's just really nice to get to know you. So thanks and best of luck. And we'll talk again when you break the next world record.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thank you, Aleksander. Thanks, Maxim.
Thank you very much.